The next technique is pretty straightforward, which is random sampling. And the random sampling is again further divided into 4 types of sampling technique, that is random sample, systematic random sampling, stratified random sampling, and cluster random sampling. Let us see one by one in detail. The first one is random sampling. The random sampling is a pretty straightforward sampling technique. Given that population of study, we would like to select the few members from the population. In random sampling, each and every member has an equal chance of being selected. There is no sequence, no order, nothing, so each and every member can be selected randomly. And here you can notice that there are basically 12 members out there in the population, and I want to select 4 members out of 12. The simplest way is I can select them randomly without any sequence. So that is what the simplest and straightforward sampling technique is, random sampling. The second method of sampling technique is systematic random sampling. Systematic random sampling is also a random sample, but we will follow a certain order in the systematic random sampling. For example, in a given population of study, we are going to select the members in the population in systematic way. And here you can notice that we have selected every third person in the population so that we can able to conduct survey on them. Generally, such kind of systematic random sampling will be used in supermarkets, shopping malls, etc. There you can see that they're going to select every 10th person or 15th person entering the supermarket and do the survey. So this is very popular and widely used in shopping malls. The next very popular sampling technique is stratified random sampling. Stratified random sampling is one of the most popular random sampling technique. This is widely used particularly in data science. In data science, the most of the sampling technique we are going to use is sampling stratified random sampling. Okay, so what is a stratified random sampling? The stratified random sampling is also random sample, but we will divide the data into several relevant strata and then sample each and every strata. It can be also used in the opinion polls, etc. So the one of the example for the stratified sample is, let's say the government released one policy and they want to understand the public opinion on the policy. And one of the way of collecting the public opinion is, in each and every state, we are going to select maybe 20 or 30 volunteers from each and every state and conduct the survey on them. And here the state is called strata. And such kind of way of gathering the information is called stratified sampling technique. Let me give the one more example here. Let's say I'm having the data something like this. And here what I can do is I can divide the data into several strata. This is strata 1 and this is strata 2 and strata 3. And each and every strata, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to select some samples. So in this strata, I'm going to select one random sample out of this. And since there are 3 samples, I'm going to select only one. And here in the green sample, maybe I can select one more sample out of this. But one thing you can notice that in the red sample, I'm having the more and more samples compared to the blue and green. So the stratified sample says that we need to balance the same fraction of samples need to be selected from the each and every strata. If you select one sample here and if you select one sample here, we should select the 2 samples here in order to balance blue and green samples. So that's the reason we will select 2 samples. And this technique is very widely used in data science because of this technique. Okay. And the next kind of sampling technique is cluster random sampling. The cluster random sample is a modified of stratified sample. So what we will do here is that we have a population of interest, and this population of interest can be divided into several clusters. Now, once the data is divided into several clusters, in cluster random sample, we are going to select entire cluster. So here you can notice that we select the two clusters, and this is what the cluster we selected, and this is also the entire cluster we're going to select here. And this is what the sample which we got. So the main difference between the cluster sample and the stratified random sample is, in cluster sample we'll divide the data into several groups or several clusters, and we are going to select entire cluster in the cluster sampling. Whereas in the stratified sample, the data is divided into several strata, and in each and every strata we are going to select the samples randomly. Okay, so that's what the idea of the sampling techniques.